Men, and as usual, I use the term loosely. We're going to put a taillight together for the Project 69 chopper. The owner of this bike said he did not want a cookie cutter taillight, and that he had seen a taillight made out of a piston on a magazine, I don't know, looking at bikes somewhere, and he liked the idea of that and was wondering if I could do something along those lines. So I said sure. Had I known what a tremendous pain in the balls it was going to be, I probably would have said no. It turns out to be a lot more work than a guy might think it is going to be. But anyway, I said yeah, so I put something together, and I'm going to show it to you here in a moment. What we're doing right now is we're putting a piston pin snap ring in, because that's going to hold in the part of the tail light that illuminates the license plate. Bastard. Trying to get it to snap in. There we go. Anyway, the part that's going to illuminate the tail light is this guy here. This is a LED trailer marker light. Bought them on Amazon. There's I don't know, there's 10 of them in a bag. It was $12, $13, I guess. I don't remember. But anyway, the piston itself. This is a 900cc Sportster piston. It's seen its better days, I'm sure you could tell. The piston, as it happens to turn out, is a scotch over 3 inches in diameter, because it is a 900cc piston. And as it also happens to turn out, these taillights, Chris Products, in case you get so inclined yourself, DHD 282R, is almost exactly 3 inches in diameter. So there was a key on this thing, I thought. Yeah, no key. But anyway, fits almost exactly over that. I would have preferred to use a flush lens, but I had to go with the high dome lens because the taillight bulb gets in the way. And there was no convenient way to recess it in there without doing more work than I actually ended up doing. But anyway, involved with this, of course you need something to mount the taillight in, which is a standard taillight socket. I put this thing in my lathe and I turned a couple of flats on the piston pin bosses and drilled and tapped them for number 6 screws that of course will go into these mounting holes over here. The top piston pin plug, hole is plugged. This is just a press fit in there, held in with green Loctite. It's a couple thou bigger than the hole is. Made that on my lathe. And I'm leaving a couple of piston rings on here, and they're not where they go. And the reason for that is this thing is going to be held captive in a motorcycle chain. And the chain could slide back and forth. Well, unless of course it was captured by these piston rings and kept from sliding around. So the piston rings kind of lock this whole assembly into place. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shove this in there and we're going to wire it up. These are 3/4 inch diameter, and there's a rubber gasket on here. It's going to be halfway decent weather seal. This thing is not really designed to be waterproof by any stretch of the imagination. The owner tells me this is going to be a fair weather bike only. And of course he decided he didn't want a front fender either, so he's going to be hurting if he gets caught in the rain. The piston pin snap ring is going to catch in the groove on this rubber and help retain this thing in there, although this is a pretty snug fit and I don't think it's going to fall out anyway, but we're going to shove it in there. Step number 1. Alright, it's in there. It ain't going nowhere. Alright, whatever, step number 3, let's make sure it works. I think I figured this out before. Black is positive. And white is negative. There we go. All right, success. Okay, the next thing we're going to want to do is shove the light bulb into the hole. And let's see which of these is bright. That works. And that works. So red is bright for the brake. So the black lead and the green lead need to be connected together for the taillight operation, and the white lead on the LED needs to go to ground. Let me grab some wiring tools. I'll be back momentarily. Alright, let's hook up a couple wires. Let's see here. I decided green and black go together. Let's lop this bastard off. Let's strip a little wire off of there. Let's strip a little off of this green wire. Let's put a drop of solder in that to hold it all together. Looks good. Let's put a heat shrink tube on there. That's good. Let's put a crimp connector on the ground wire. Well, that is a tiny wire. That's probably 22 or 24 gauge. When I get around to wiring a bike up, I will give you my whole spiel on wiring and crimping tools, and why automotive crimping tools suck, and why I use aircraft crimping tools. So let's stuff this bitch together. All right, just FYI too on this thing, although the piston is the right size for that tail light, the problem is that there is nothing in the piston into which you could screw the lenses. So I had a piece of scrap aluminum I machined to the right diameter, drilled a couple of holes in it to screw the lens on, and then actually drilled a couple of holes through the sides of the piston and rosette welded this retainer to the piston so that the lens had something to screw to. So I'm not sure when I get ready to assemble this thing whether I'm going to pull these wires out through this hole or whether I'm just going to run the wires into the hole and splice them inside here. One way or the other, I'm not sure. But, you know, I'll tell you what, let's see. For purposes of this demonstration, let's pull the wires out of the hole and see if it works. We'll just ground the piston out. Just ground the piston out. Okay, we got the bright light, and we got the low running light and the tail light. Okay, let's see. Oh, yeah, we're going to put it together. This is far trickier than you think it would be. This piston ring I'm leaving on here because it helps trap the chain in position on the piston. So the light won't be able to slide back and forth in the event the chain loosens up. The chain shouldn't loosen up, but hey, you never know, right? And this is kind of a Chinese fire drill. There we go. Okay, the piston is in. Now, for the license plate bracket. I'm using a piece of old diamond plate, and I had some new diamond plate. But, you know, I'm using a piece of used chain. I'm using a destroyed piston. It didn't seem like it fit the theme to have a bright, brand new piece of shiny diamond plate. So I got a piece of old diamond plate. It's a little bit nicked up. It's a little bit used. But anyway, that's what we're using. Because the chain is proud of the back of this, it can't be screwed flat to the sissy bar. So I got some standoffs just held on with one tack weld to keep them in place. So now we got to manipulate this thing into position, and this gets a little tricky too. Hey, there we go. Piece of cake. So you center it up, and then I have a 1/4 inch Allen screw in here between the links, and I tighten it up. See, and the tail light has popped out of the chain. You loosen this back up again so you can get it shut back in there. Okay, that's back in its little groove. Tighten this back up. The moral of the story is if you're ever fucking with this thing, hint to the new owner, if you're ever fucking with this thing, try not to ever have to loosen this screw. We twist it around to get the light shining down at the license plate. And let's tighten this bastard up. Gotta get a wrench. Tighten the hell out of it. And there you have it. Not necessarily everybody's cup of tea, but hey, the owner likes it, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. So anyway, I'm building it for him, not building it for you. So if you guys don't like it, I guess that's just too freaking bad. It ain't for your bike. But anyway, you know, a couple of dollars worth of parts in this thing. A lot more time than you would think figuring out how wide and tall the license plate had to be, the bracket for the license plate, so as the bolt could uniformly tighten up over here and not have it, you know, it has to tighten up evenly. It needs to end up with one chain link width. So that was a little tricky figuring that out. That the piston happened to be the right size to work out with that number of links on it, just pure dumb luck. Anyway, I'll take it. Dumb luck works for me. But there you have it. And I'll tell you what, let's see if we can't hook a jumper up on here, fire it up one last time. Ground it out. Ground out the frame. We'll hook up the brake light. Boom, there you go. Hook up the brake light. Boom, there you go. Got the running light and the tail light. I like it. That's pretty cool. I think it's going to be nice. I got another project I'm going to start today. Whether I'll do it all in one video or not, I don't know. I'm going to try to. So I'm not out of here yet. We're going to start the triple clamp next. Back later. Well, probably not for a while, but at some point in the not too terrible distant future, these parts here have got to get prepped so that when the frame is powder coated, this shit will all be ready to go. We're going to be using a stock front end, only it won't be stock anymore. I'm going to cut these off, polish this all out, and that'll be the top triple clamp, bottom triple clamp. It's got my handmade fork stop system that this bike will be using. This will get powder coated. These nubs are going to get cut off. Everything's going to be ground in. I'll probably radius these off a little bit. I'm not going to do any of that on camera because it involves a tremendous amount of grit and grime flying through the air, and I just don't want to subject the camera. Plus, that's hard to do in video at the same time, and hell, anybody could do it. This is going to be the front brake master cylinder we're going to use. And, you know, this is late model, and it's designed to work with the switch and the throttle that I'll go with it. And it doesn't look good when you don't use the rest of that shit. Well, this bike is probably only going to have one switch on the handlebars. Probably just a horn switch. So somewhere along the line, I'm going to cut this flange off and radius it over so that it matches this side. Some of this shit's going to get trimmed off so that the throttle could fit up in here. This is probably going to get cut off. This actuates the brake switch, and this bike is going to have a hydraulic pressure switch in the line going to the front brake, so I'm not going to need the mechanical one. And some of these knobs and nudges are going to get smoothed off on here. And the same thing for the clutch lever. This is going to get cut off and radiused over and match this, and I'll probably polish these all out. I could powder coat them, but I'll probably polish them. So I think I'm going to go get started on the triple clamp. See ya back in a while. Bye. Okay, I'm back. Spent a couple of 3 quality hours on with my buffing wheel, and this is where I ended up. Top triple clamp. The ears for the headlights were cut off. The area was blended in, smoothed and polished. The nubs on both sides that used to stick out were cut off. The steel insert in there was drilled out. I considered welding this in, but I didn't for a couple of reasons. The chief reason was for structural integrity and safety. If I weld this and I heat it up, the whole thing is of course going to heat up, expand and contract, and subject this to possible cracking in this area. Well, obviously something that holds a fork tube on, you want it to be as secure as absolutely possible, and I didn't want to run the risk of inducing any cracks in this thing. The other part of the consideration was this is tapered and the fork tube is tapered and they mate tightly together. I didn't want to do anything that might distort this taper, so I decided to just leave it be. Yeah, it's got a hole in it, but you know, unless you want to buy new triple clamps or buy a new front end or run the risk of a structural problem because of you know heating this area up and letting it cool, expand and contract or whatever, I think this is the best you can end up with. So anyway, you know, Harley metal does not polish out very well a lot of times. A lot of pits in here. You know, you sand down through the pits, it just exposes more pits. So, you know, probably doesn't show up on the camera. Let me see if I can get it to show up for you. Well, I don't know, you could kind of see a little bit pitting in through here. Like I say, the metal is not particularly good. You sand down through this, it just exposes more. So, you know, Harley metal, not always the greatest. Anyway, triple clamp, control levers. You know, these were those black stock control levers. I don't know whether Harley paints them or powder coated them, but anyway, stripped them all off, polished them all out. They came out pretty nicely. Popped a rebuild kit in here, and for you guys who are familiar with the later style control levers, they were meant to go with the later style switch housing, so there was a flange all around here that, you know, mated with the switch housing that goes over here. So the flange was machined off and sanded off and filed off. To remove the flange from the clamps, I bolted the clamps together over a piece of old 1-inch handlebar, stuck it in my lathe, and turned them off, and then filed them down, sanded and polished them out. On these levers, what flange of it there was in this area, and I just filed them off, took them off with the Dremel tool. Blended various nubs and, you know, things off of this, but these turned out pretty nice. Way cheaper than you know, mega bucks on a new set of control levers. I happen to like this style. I think the owner will like them too. But yeah, anyway, here you go. A couple 3 hours of polishing wheel. That old shit you pick up on eBay can be made to look pretty nice with a little bit of work. The triple clamps, honestly, no, the lower triple tree, honestly. Ground the nubs off of that. It is already at the powder coaters. I had it dropped off along with the frame while I was finishing up some other stuff. But anyway, I am out of here. Pretty good day's worth of work to get all of this done. I am out of here. Hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Frame and a bunch of little parts should be coming back from powder coat any day, and we're going to be putting this thing together. Thanks for watching. Bye.